Yo, 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 it's ODB from OLP. This is episode 371. Thank you so much for coming back and rocking with us as you do every episode. If you're new to this podcast, please tap on subscribe or follow, depending on what app you're using. We've got a jam-packed episode. I am going to be solo this episode, so I've tried to organize a little bit of the chaos behind me. If you're listening via a typical podcast app, thank you. Please know that you can also check us out via YouTube, and there's also going to be additional benefits if you want to become a YouTube member, and I'll talk about those a little bit later on this episode. But I'm going to talk about the new setup that I have. But the main thing on this episode is I want to welcome Donna Mahaney-Patrick. She joins the show. Now, I did hint on the last episode that we're going to have someone with a rich history in this scene of ours. And DMP, Donna Mahaney-Patrick, is that individual. So I'm so excited to have her on. Thank you, Donna, for sitting down with us. Now, some of you are going to know her name. You know, I say she's got the OG status, and you may or may not know this, but she had a truck that was on a cover in the 1980s. It doesn't get more OG than that. So we're going to, of course, jump into that. I want to give a huge shout out to her husband, Sean Patrick. Love the car, brother. And thanks for always looking out. It was so cool hanging out with you guys a year ago. And we'll get more into, that as we get through the episode. I'll also talk about on this episode some of the changes that I recently made. You may see those here if you're watching via YouTube, and I'm so excited just some of the new equipment that I had. But the overview of this episode is brought to you by our kinfolk at Hammered Weekend Wear, HAMMERD, weekendwear.com. Before I get in, I want to actually show you, I have this unique opportunity. I got my new package from Adam and team this week, but I do want to also stop, and you typically will hear this at the beginning. Huge shout out to our title sponsor, Scraping the Coast, Mini Truck Hall of Fame event that is every June in Biloxi. So we're super excited. I think next year's the 22nd annual, which will be June, of course, of 2025. So plan on coming out. That's this event that you just can't miss, and it's so massive. There's so much to do there in Biloxi, and we hope that you'll join us. But as I said, the episode overview brought to you by Hammered Weekend Wear. What I want to do is I want to just show you really quick. I typically do an unboxing of this stuff, but what I want to do here is just show you briefly, since I had this unique opportunity with these. They typically have an option for stickers, so you can get the sticker packs, and they have kind of really led in what they do with having their front logo on the front of the shirt that is centered around the artwork that is on the back of the shirt, of course, kind of the main thing. They also recently celebrated their 10th anniversary, so congrats to them. And of course, they partner up with kinfolk like Relaxin' in the Park, so that's super cool. But if you didn't know, Hammered Weekend Wear, and again, I just want to give them a huge shout out. They recently announced that the subscription option for 2025 is open, and what that does is if you buy into that, you would automatically receive every design. There are 2 designs that they come out with about every 60 days or so. You automatically get them in the mail like I do, and it's awesome. This is the red, white, and obsessed. And it's a Tahoe, super cool, USA themed. You got the American flag. Love this one. You've got the gnome on there as well. The gnome, he also makes an appearance on this sticker, if you didn't see that just a second ago, right here. So that is probably my favorite of the 2, but it's like picking which is your favorite child. If you've got 2, you just can't do it. And of course, we've got the devil in the details. So this is super cool cover truck, and of course was featured in Street Trucks a few years back. Super awesome. Now I always choose the tank tops. They have options for the banners, if I recall correctly. They have options for the hoodies and zip ups and shirts in different colors, if I recall correctly. So HAMMERD, weekendwear.com, let them know that OLP sent you. So next up, we got the breaking news. And what I wanted to briefly do is reinforce that on the last episode, I kind of basically talked about Helene and the impacts. And really, I could have talked much more because there's definitely a lot of impacts to humanity. But of course, I dovetailed in a little bit as well the impacts to the truck scene that we were seeing. And I gave a tip of the cap and kudos to folks like Showdown in the Valley. They had to make quick decisions. Obviously, their community was highly impacted. So, tip of the cap again to them. They have since come out and announced their new dates, which again is going to be key because anytime you're dealing with kind of a PR situation like they were, you've got to act quick. And if I remember correctly, their event is going to be the 22nd, 23rd, 24th, maybe the 21st to the 24th, that weekend. Now, I don't have my phone right in front of me, but I recall, and you could follow them on Showdown in the Valley. So, we'll talk more kind of about that. But listen, many of you that are listeners were probably impacted in some form or fashion by Helene. The storm wreaked a lot of havoc throughout the country, and it just blows my mind seeing AccuWeather and the Weather Channel, some of the video, the landslides, the impacts with the rainfall and things like that. It just was catastrophic. And then, oh, by the way, a week and a half, less than 2 weeks later, you have another storm come through Milton. And of course, it just really decimated different areas of Florida. So I want to talk about that here in the breaking news segment briefly. But I want to give a huge shout out to Spreading the Love and the Mini Nats kinfolk. I'm sure there's a lot of players behind the scenes as well that help them. There's many of you that donated. Jason Bell is one of those guys out there that doesn't want the recognition, but he wants to do the right thing. And that's my kind of guy, dude. That's one of my homies right there. And he's the kind of guy that says, hey, look, man, I'm not out here for the limelight. I'm out here to do the right thing for the community, for the scene. And I got to give a tip of the cap to him for that. So Jay Bell and team, also was Spreading the Love, and we're seeing what you guys are doing out there. It's a huge honor to be a part of this awesome truck scene. They raised, if I remember correctly, it was something like $25,000 plus in materials and non-perishable stuff and things like that. So, tip of the cap. I did see the Wheels Through Time Motorcycle Museum in Maggie Valley. They did report that they were dry inside, and that was a sign of relief for me. Now, I've always said this, again, the material stuff is obviously always secondary to the life piece, right? Totally get it. The Wheels Through Time Museum is really like an American treasure of a museum, mind blowing. So obviously, I wouldn't want stuff to get damaged, but it was really, really, really good news that they were kind of safe and dry, if you will. So Wheels Through Time, rest in peace, Dale Wexler, and I got a chance to meet his son Matt earlier this year when we went, ironically enough, to Mini Nats and visited the museum that's literally right there in Maggie Valley. Now, in terms of Milton, what I really want to reinforce to many of you folks out there is if there's any way, you've seen me make the post, if there's any way you can donate to a charity, please do so. If there's a way that you can donate time or equipment or tools or help, your fellow kinfolk out there. My son made a comment to me the other day, him seeing humanity kind of come together. And I'll briefly, I think this week I'm going to touch upon that with ODB Live and Uncut. But what I will tell you is so many people are coming together to help one another and to do the right thing. And I could tell you, Milton and Florida, if you've been following us via social media, I did post some videos a little bit outside of the norm stuff that I do, but I wanted people to know what was going on. So many of you reached out and asked, hey, is everything going to be okay? I know Florida's a big state. Where do you live? And things like that. So my main objective was to kind of just get the message out there. And that's what I was doing through those about 3 to 4 videos per day. I will tell you that we came out of it okay. We were without power for about 120 hours, which give or take about 5 days. And that's really a drop in the bucket compared to what some people are dealing with in terms of the flooding of their homes, the loss of, their dwelling, and so much more. So I often will say, take heed, right? So listen to what's going on. And I highly encourage people, wherever you live, whether it's tornadoes, earthquakes, mudslides, tropical depressions, these storms that we've been seeing, it's paramount. Safety is paramount. And I think as we all get a little bit older, we realize that, because we've got families, we've got kids, we've got all of our hard-earned money wrapped up in these dwellings and things like that. And obviously, again, the material stuff can be replaced, but at the end of the day, it's about life safety. And that's what I would really want to reinforce to folks. If this was new to you in Florida, like it kind of was to me, I've been here my entire life and really never experienced something that was this close, right, as a direct hit. It's an eye-opener. I have to have a plan because of the job that I have. I potentially would be called upon to work damage assessment type situations after the fact. Okay, that's my role. So I don't want to go too far into that, but basically what I agree to is that I would never evacuate to outside the state or outside the community. I would go to a storm shelter if I had to, but my family has to have a plan. In the event that I have to go do those things, like all of these line crews, if you will. These folks are leaving their homes in different states for weeks upon time, if not months, and they have to have a plan. So that's why I always tell people, have a plan. Um, open the notes on your phone and get some bullet points going and going, hey, next year, here's what we want to do. One of the things that we do is we have the 5-gallon water deals that get delivered. We love that. We drink mostly water in our home. So, we had some extra of those, right? And that really helps. We had, in the event that the pumping mechanism, we have a manual thing that we could put down in there and still, pump the water out. If it was an electric type situation, I don't think ours is technically electric. I think it still pumps it. But, there's all of those things you got to think through. And if you just don't plan at all and you just put your head in the sand, and then you wake up and it's 2025 and it's hurricane season and you've put zero thought into it, maybe if you're single and you have an apartment, maybe you don't have to, but certainly if you've got a home or a family or kids or, vehicles, especially electric vehicles, there's all this talk of, moving them to higher ground. Tampa had some different situations for that, including classic cars. There's a lot of things to think through. And again, the material stuff is, that's second. Life safety is always going to be first. So listen, I could spend a whole episode kind of talking about some of the things that we've seen around here. I've got a buddy that lives 15 minutes from here, and entire section of his neighborhood is flooded. He did a lot of stuff to make sure that water did not intrude into his home. He's got a couple shoebox Fords. He's got, all kinds of stuff right at his house, and he almost lost it all. He came within probably feet or inches of losing a lot. So again, have a plan. That's my message this week with the breaking news brought to you by our kinfolk at Lone Star Throwdown every year in Conroe, Texas. Arguably the biggest and baddest truck show that technically has cars. So, right, it is a car and truck show, but mostly trucks in the entire world. If you've never been to LST, gallivant on out to Conroe, Texas with us next year. And you could follow Lone Star Throwdown, 3 words, on Facebook, on Instagram, or you can visit LoneStarThrowdown.com for all of the information that you need. Huge shout out to Jared, Radar, Lonnie, their wives, their significant others, and everyone behind the scenes that puts on a truly tremendous event. Okay, next we got the general updates. So this one's exciting. You may see if you're watching via YouTube, man. I've been doing this 9 years now. Just over, I guess, technically 9 years, almost 9.5. I think I bought my equipment in July of 2015. So give or take, gives you a little bit of idea. I have, for the most part, I haven't really made a lot of changes to how I uh, produce this podcast. Contrary to what a lot of people think, probably, over the course of time, it's like, hey, has it improved? Yeah, a little bit. In the beginning, I was using a different Mac. I was using a 3.5 millimeter jack. The primary stuff I was using was micro SD card, recording to it. And that was pretty much how I produced the show. I always focused on the quality of the audio. And up until recently, which was the beginning of 2024, I really hadn't made a lot of changes in 9 years or so, 8.5, 9 years. That changed in 2024 because, again, I moved into a situation where I'm doing video. So obviously I was a little bit late to the game. I think, I was in my comfort zone. So I really wanted to, I had this vision the last few years of going to a video podcast. Some of the tools out there made that a lot easier. So by that change, I basically stopped using micro SD, and I was, I'm recording through this program that I just absolutely love. And what that brought in is, if you've watched me on YouTube, I had a dynamic microphone, and it was like one of those mics where like you got to like really talk into it, right? It's one of those, like, it's a close mic. And that just got annoying because now that I'm doing video, if you're watching me now, I've got this extra space, right? So I have this condenser mic. I always get the terms mixed up, but I got a condenser mic. I did some preliminary testing. Of course, I did read a lot of reviews. So I invested in a new microphone. I'm now using my awesome equipment that we invested in a few years ago, and I kind of used, but I didn't really like it at the time because I was still using the micro SD, and it just was like a little cumbersome. But everything is kind of like dovetailing together now. New mic, new XLR cable that plugs into this awesome mixer. I mean, literally, I feel like I got a new studio. I got some new lights in here, which are just basically new light bulbs. I got a new holder for the camera. And there's going to be a few more things that I'll end up getting, but I truly appreciate everybody that supports what we do here. I produce this podcast. I take a lot of pride in it. And recently, with like the microphone that I was using and things like that, I mean, it's an amazing mic. But if you didn't know the way these programs work now, there's a lot of AI even built into it. There's noise reduction, there's leveling out. It can automatically do. And I say all that because I was noticing like little crackles and little pops and things that were just driving me insane. So I finally bit the bullet, and I said, hey, I'm going to buy the new mic, and that's what I have here. So I'm super excited about that. I also want to give a huge shout out to the big homie that has the orange ballistic tribute, Brian, that was Jeremy's truck, and of course, Speechless. It just popped in my head. But it was technically an orange ballistic tribute at the time. And then, of course, it ended up with graphics. But I got the sticker right here. I went ahead and put that there. He just sent me a little bit of a care package, and I want to give him a huge shout out. Let's see if I have the other sticker here. And he is BBS Customs, which is cool. And he also sent me a little keychain. So thanks. We're going to do a sticker swap, and we were going to do it at freaking weekend, but I think he forgot the stickers, and I had forgotten about it too. So I want to give him a huge shout out. But with that being said, I'm super excited about the new equipment, and hopefully you guys will hear the difference in the audio, and I'm just excited about it. So that's the general updates, brought to you by our kinfolk at Southeast Mini Truckin Nationals, also known simply as Mini Nats. We hope that you can come out every April in Maggie Valley, North Carolina. It's an amazing event, arguably the biggest and baddest mini truck show in the world. I would put money on that if I was a betting man. Okay, next we got the trivia with Mike. And I got one question for the Mini Truckin Syndicate out there. Are you ready? Now, I was going to ask Biggity Mike the Mayor if he's ready, but he, believe it or not, is getting ready for something else. He is going on a cruise. I said, Mike, you just got back from a vacation, I thought. but Mike has been actually under the weather. So shout out to the big homie. And of course, the trivia with Mike is brought to you by Garage Gear Clothing, one of our favorite brands out there. They also offer a free shipping option if you spend a certain threshold. GarageGearClothing.com for more. The holidays are coming up. Order some gear and let them know that OLP sent you. But this one's a fun one. It's more like a pop culture. And the reason why I'm asking this one is I want to put it in your mind how long ago this was. 25 years ago, the world was getting ready for a huge potential issue. What was the scare 25 years ago? So think about it. We're October 2024. 25 years ago, for those scoring at home, was October of 1999, and that was issue 2 of Street Trucks. If you recall, the first year they had 3 issues. They had August, skipped September, went bi-monthly, of course, to October, skipped November and December. Then, of course, in 2000, they were monthly publication up through now and continuing. But 25 years ago, the world was facing a huge potential issue. What was that scare? Now, I'm going to share that. If I remember, I'm going to share the answer with you just in a little bit. Again, Garage Gear Clothing, huge shout out to them. I love the Garage Gear Clothing gear that I have. I've been trying to go through my shirts and organize it. I've got, my hammered stuff. I got my Garage Gear stuff. So now that I'm doing more of the video, I want to try to rep the apparel. But I've got so many shirts. I've got to go digging. So this week, I'm wearing Mob Steel. I recently bought a new hat. Shout out to Mob Steel Emma. Good kinfolk there. Okay, the scene updates. So I felt like this month has blown by because we were without power for a few days, doing the bi-monthly. I knew October was going to be a huge month, and it certainly is wrapping up to be that way. I want to try to get Scott at some point, Scott and Jenna Lease, Scotty the Body, to talk a little bit about, they have gallivanted to, they attempted to gallivant to 3 shows recently. Fair Enough, put on by Justin and team up in Tennessee. They attempted to gallivant to they attempted to go to Fair Enough, and they weren't able to make it because of the impacts with Helene. They were in the truck, I think, 26 hours. Before that, they gallivanted to Biloxi for the freaking weekend. They had a blast. And of course, they recently gallivanted all the way up as a hurricane was barreling down on Florida. You cannot stop Scott and Jenna Lease. They went ahead and still went to Cruising with Cruisers, which was the OLP show of the year for 2023. My understanding, a lot of money was raised again, so fantastic. I know the RA All-Star event is coming up. And oh, by the way, Lowdown in Laughlin also just recently went down. This weekend is also the KIK show. I say the KIK show. The folks behind KIK, they, of course, have Last Resort, and that's going down in Louisiana. So certainly October is stacked, and that is really an understatement if you really think about it. So those are a few things that have happened show-wise. Hammered Weekend Wear, again, I mentioned this earlier, the 2025 subscription is out. It's a unique opportunity. It's so cool. I know it's a little bit of an investment. It's cool that they started a little earlier because I think people get around the holidays and they go, man, I don't have the extra coin. I bought presents for the family and the kids and things like that. But now is your opportunity to go to HAMMERD, weekendwear.com. And again, when you buy into their subscription model, you automatically get, so think about a subscription of a mag. New issue comes out, boom, already sent to you, automatically sent to you. Same thing with Hammered Weekend Wear. Huge shout out. Love their model that they have. One of the only brands that I know that literally every bi-monthly, basically every 60 days or so, they're launching 2 new designs. So it's a unique opportunity to get, I think, 12 designs. And again, I think that they've opened up different things such as hoodies and zip ups and whatnot, some different options. And that continues to grow. And the people that have it like I do absolutely love it because it's just new stuff, and you can throw on your shirt. I have a bunch of tank tops because I live in Florida, and that's just what I do. So huge shout out to the kinfolk there. Now, I also want to give a huge shout out to CCF Customs. And what I'm going to do here, and again, the opportunity that we have with this program, if you're watching us here on YouTube, is I'm going to jump over to Instagram and just show you here my screen. CCF_customs on Instagram. Okay. This is a really, really unique company. They are doing some super cool stuff with Billet. Now, many of us have a Billet hookup. You know, we have people that do different things for us, and that is fantastic. But here's what I want to show you. Number one, you got to follow CCF Customs. I recently did an unboxing on the channel, and I also did it through YouTube. They have these really cool belt buckles. These are two different versions right here. And I'm showing these for those that are watching here on YouTube. CCF Customs, you could go out and you can purchase these from them. Let them know that OLP sent you, and they're good people. This is straight out of, not Compton, straight out of Canada. Good people. Check that out, man. So, with that being said, I want to give a huge shout out to CCF Customs. Again, I did mention this earlier, Showdown in the Valley. These folks have made quick decisions, as quick as they could. And let me see if I can find this quick enough. Showdown. I forget what their Instagram is. Let me see here. Showdown in the Valley. Usually I have the so it's show_down_in_the_valley between all the words. 7,100 followers. They announced that their new dates are November 22nd, 23rd, 24th. So I mentioned that earlier. ShowdownInTheValley.com. This is a unique opportunity because it kind of is later in the year. You can bust your jackets out typically, which I don't know anything about because I'm a Floridian, aka Floridiot. Shout out to Fester in South Florida. But Showdown in the Valley, shout out to the kinfolk there. And I know that they're also doing their part to raise funds and do what they're doing. So I'm hoping on the next episode we can get them on and we can talk a little bit about that. With that being said, those are the scene updates for this week, brought to you by Local Rides Mag. Just how it sounds. However, there is a Z on the end of rides instead of an S. LocalRidesMag.com. You could buy issues. There's a lot of great features in these publications. Damian Davis, I know, is a big contributor, as well as others. Local Rides with a Z. Mag.com. They're also on Instagram if you want to check them out. Okay, Hut 1, Hut 2, Hut 3, Hut. Old Dirty Ballard, live and uncut. So I mentioned this earlier. My son and I were chatting about the impacts of Milton. And by the way, for those that aren't Office Space fans, if you watch the late 90s cult classic Office Space, and you're a fan of that film, as I am, you will know that Milton is the character that has the red stapler. So if you have been seeing, all of the memes and the different things about go away Milton and this and that, obviously they're talking about the hurricane, but the meaning behind it is kind of also the pop culture reference to the cult classic, which I guarantee Mike hasn't seen it. Love that film. It's just amazing. But my son and I were chatting about Milton, and one thing that he said really resonated with me. He noticed how communities were coming together to help one another. He actually said to me something along the lines of, "Dad, I just like seeing how people are helping one another. That's what I want to see." That's what my son said, end quote, give or take in those terms. Now, I couldn't agree more. In bad times, there does seem to be good that comes from it. When a tragedy happens, you often see all races and all cultures really kind of meshing together to help one another. And that means a lot to me because I think, like, in the world that we live in, especially with the social media and, the 24-hour news cycle that's been around for years and years and years, it's, there's so much division. And, there's even division in sports. People have been arguing forever. Florida State versus Florida, Chevy versus Ford, this versus that. You name it. That's just the way kind of the culture is. But I can tell you this, it does mean a lot to me to see, people kind of come together, if you will, and, help one another and seeing humanity try to just push forward through these tough situations. Again, I mean, some of the video that I saw from Helene, mudslides, and people just going, dude, I just lost my house. Everything I own, like if you think about it, everything you own for the most part often is like in your dwelling, right? If you don't have any off-site storage or a car stored somewhere else or a car in the shop, you could argue that everything you own is like on this one little piece of property or in this one apartment that you have or whatever your situation is. So to see it just erased in an instant is gut-wrenching. And for those that have never experienced a natural disaster, just know it's not fun. I know people out there watch the news and they're like, wow, what's going to happen and things like that. But just know that people are going through a lot. And although we went without power for a few days and we lost what was in our refrigerator and all that, that is like nothing. I don't even consider that like a drop in the bucket to what some people are dealing with. So, again, with my ODB Live and Uncut, I would encourage people, volunteer your time if you can, get outside your element. So often radio personalities, politicians, the news cycle, they want people to clash. They want people to hate each other. If you think about red versus blue, that's like, all these people on Facebook, sharing this and sharing that. I mean, that's their prerogative, but it's just, that's just stuff that I don't get down with. Speaking of red versus blue, I'm not talking about Bloods and Crips either. If you like metal music, I love Ice-T's band Body Count. Have you heard the track, which is called F What You Heard? Okay, this thing is just insane. I'm not even going to go into the lyrics, but in one of the verses, he says, it's the demo Crips, blood publicans. Mother F has got over 90 Fed indictments. Democrips, blood publicans. These mother Effers somehow stay on bail. Help me with this S word. It's the Democrips and blood publicans. We already know the government's gangsta because Democrips, blood publicans. Listen, F what you heard. Both wings are on the same bird, right? It's just insane the way it is. And some of my friends, they get involved in politics a lot and stuff, and that's people's prerogative. That's fine. I absolutely hate it. I hate division. I hate anything to do with the two-party system, the three-party system. It just does nothing for me. And I know a lot of people go, well, man, don't you care? I mean, I guess I care about, health and well-being. But at the end of the day, like when people are just like, well, yeah, I mean, you don't understand. It's going to do this to you and stuff. I said, look, man, I live my life the same way, for the most part, no matter what. Now, yeah, I mean, laws do change. I know some people, slam their fist around like Joey Whitby, and they're like, damn, I'm gonna end up paying like, $600 more in taxes next year because of this or that. And I get it if you really want to break it down to that stuff. But at the end of the day, ODB Live and Uncut, it's just about, dude, let's bring people together. And that's what I've always done here. I mean, I want to bring people together. I'm not perfect. I've tried to right my wrongs. Many of you have told me, yo, ODB, I heard you lace, some of the amazing sentiment that you've had that has said, hey, man, bury the beefs, do what's right. And I stand by that. If I was ever to be a politician, which I won't, I would say, this is ODB and I approve this message. Again, bury the beefs. If there's things that drive you crazy in life, if it's going on Facebook and seeing somebody update that they just got something new and you don't want to see that or whatever, frustrates you, figure out a way to get past it. And a perfect example is, I just used to get frustrated, when people would cut me off. Or it was like, okay, I'm driving, 80 and a 70 and this guy's doing 150. I just look at it and say, I don't care, as long as you're not, clipping my car or running me off the road, or, doing anything to hurt my family. I really don't care what other people do with their own time. I don't care what people do in their own houses, as long as you're not hurting kids or you're not hurting, fellow mankind in any kind of way, if you will. And as long as you're not racist, right? I mean, that's one of my biggest things. Then I don't care what people do with their time, with their money. But I'll sum it up, ODB Live and Uncut. Do something positive with your time. I'm going to be 47 in a couple weeks, in about a month. And, I look at it and say, man, if you do the math, my father lived to 63. That's in, 15 years for me, 15, 16 years. If I were to live to 90, not to be morbid, but half my time is gone. 100% straight up and down. So why would I want to waste it on going on Facebook or getting mad at this guy or fighting with this guy or doing this? Like, it's like, I don't care. If it's not bringing joy to myself or my family or my loved ones, or trying to set up a trust fund to help the grandkids or something, I don't care. And when people try to get me all hyped up about, oh, check this out, screenshot, delete it, don't care, moving on. I got way more stuff. You're never going to see me post anything saying I'm bored. I mean, I could wake up every day. I could go to the compound. I could work here, not saying, I don't have any more than the average guy, if you will. My dad worked hard for what he had, but at the end of the day, like, I'll occupy my time. So I would encourage you guys to do the same thing. Come together as a scene, come together as humanity, help people out. If you've got something negative on your mind about someone, I guarantee you could say something positive about someone before you say a negative. There's some people, when they approach me, I know they're going to come up and all they want to do is like, oh man, let's this mother effer and this and this. It's like, dude, no, not here, man. Not ODBZ. ODB Live and Uncut brought to you by Colorado Custom Wheels. Sorry, I went a little off tangent there, but that's just what's on my mind, so I'm going to speak it. ODB Live and Uncut, again, brought to you by Colorado Custom Wheels. Colorado Custom with no S.com, the best, in my opinion, billet wheels in the industry. They make, I think, rear view mirrors now. I know they're doing steering wheels still, and their wheels, the shine, the design, everything about them is amazing. Shout out to Michael and team at Colorado Custom, also known as CC Cycle Wheels. Okay, next we got the podcast updates. This one's quick. We have some super cool stuff, as I mentioned, coming up in the future. Stay tuned to our channels, because I can tell you what, it's going to be freaking awesome, man. It's going to be awesome. And I'm excited about it. So, with that being said, I know I've talked your ear off. I always want to kind of get these early segments down a little bit, but it doesn't always work. It is what it is. A lot was on my mind. Thank you for listening. If you have a friend or coworker that would appreciate the message or appreciate this content, click the share button, share it to your social media if you can, send it via text. However you share stuff, do that, because at the end of the day, means a lot to me. So I appreciate you guys. Be safe, love one another, and just do the right thing. You know what I'm saying? Bury the beefs. Podcast updates brought to you by The Freaking Weekend. We were just there in Biloxi. We'll be back in Biloxi September 2025. Tip of the cap to, of course, Trip and team. We had a blast. It was truly amazing. To all of the supporters out there, ourlifestylepodcast.com. We've got stickers, banners, shirts, a lot of different cool stuff. I think we've got the skate decks on there. Holidays are coming up. If you want to show some love for what we do, please go out there and pick up the merch. I think that's it. Without further ado, I want to roll into Donna Mahaney-Patrick. Thank you so much for sitting down with us. Much love to Sean, and rest in peace, Sean Mahaney, the triple, I would argue, quadruple OG. ODB, we got you. Peace. All right, we're getting ready to roll into this audio. I did not want to forget, the answer to the trivia is what? Y2K. The reason why I brought that up is when I was spending some time at my in-laws, we were talking about daylight saving time. There's still been this challenge. Florida's trying to basically get rid of the clock changing, and nobody can really figure out if they really want to do it. So the legislation just has never made it where it needs to be. And my father-in-law was saying, yeah, it would take a lot of probably programming for everybody to change their systems and stuff. So we started talking about Y2K, and I was like, wow, that was 25 years ago that we were barreling down on December 31st, 1999. And everyone thought, for the younger generation out there, everybody thought like the systems were never programmed to roll over to like a new century. So anyways, that's the answer, Y2K. Also, I want to thank our title sponsor, Scraping the Coast, every June in Biloxi. And we can't thank you enough for the continued support. We hope that you join us in June of 2025. Let's roll into Donna Mahaney-Patrick's interview as I give her a call. Stay on the rise, everyone, and be safe. Peace. Hey, I'm so excited to sit down with Donna Mahaney-Patrick, and thanks for taking the time, Donna. How are you?
I'm doing good.
Good, good. Would you mind just telling the audience a little bit about yourself? Because I thought maybe you grew up in California, but
I did.
I think we were texting one day, and I was thinking, okay, did you live somewhere different too?
Yes, I did. Yeah. I grew up in Southern California in Huntington Beach,
Okay,
and I was about 19. I moved to Texas after a really bad breakup, and I lived for 20 years in Texas, and then
really?
transferred back with my job to Bakersfield, California, which is not as exciting as it sounds. But it was, a good transfer, and cost of living, everything was cool, and came back in 2009.
Now, that's awesome. Now, whereabouts in the huge state of Texas did you kind of reside
I
most
was
of the time?
I was in the Dallas-Fort Worth area the whole time.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, that's like a huge area. I got to go there a couple times for work, because being a big kind of historian for the JFK stuff, that was in Dealey Plaza there and
Oh
stuff. So it
yeah.
was like when I got to go there, I was like a kid just knowing the history, right? I mean, it was just kind of a
Right.
dark day, but it was neat to be able to go there because it's so unchanged.
Oh yeah, absolutely. That stuff is a lot of history in the Dallas area, and yeah, one of my daughters was born in Dallas, and one of them was born in Fort Worth. So
Oh,
yeah,
wow.
I ended up in Fort Worth, and then that's where I moved from. So
Gotcha.
and
Now,
I gave my ex the whole state of Texas in the divorce. It was great.
what's the George Strait song? All my exes live in Texas. I
Yeah,
know some country,
yeah,
one or
pretty
two
much.
songs. Now, what would you say, like, when you compare the states? Like, what did you like about Texas? What did you maybe dislike, maybe other than significant others?
Right. Well, I mean, I still love Texas. It's a great state.
Yeah.
The people are by far the friendliest people in the whole wide world.
Oh, yeah.
Very, very proud. My girls were both raised in Texas, but except for Trinity now has lived in California longer than she lived in Texas because she moved when she was 8 when I
Wow.
moved her. So I love Texas. I don't like the weather. I don't like the bugs. I don't like the humidity. I wanted to be back in Southern California, and I know it's a stretch, Bakersfield area, but it was close enough for me to, make it affordable and make it a good thing.
Yeah.
So I moved me and my girls back here, and we were doing good.
Yeah, and that's awesome because being a mom and having the kids and going, hey, we're gonna make the trek back to where
Oh
you
yeah.
grew up and stuff. That's a big move and stuff. So definitely commend you on that. Now that was like you came back to California. Like, what year was it again?
That was in 2009.
That's why. Okay, yeah. So
Yeah,
about yeah, and it's crazy how fast time goes because I was thinking about
it's
some stuff
fast.
that my wife and I did in 2009, and I was like, man, that was 15 years ago. It's just hard for me to wrap my mind around that.
Oh, yeah, I've been in this house here for 10 years now, and I'm like, how did 10 years happen already? That's a
Yeah,
crazy. So, yeah,
yeah.
it's nice though.
And we were just watching the news, and it was talking about Reno, Nevada, and they were talking about the house, the prices on houses and stuff. And I was like, good Lord, like, we're kind of fortunate that, to your point, having a house for 10, we've been here since 2004. And it's like, I'm like, thank God that we've got a place because it's just
Yeah, can't
it's so
afford them
out of
now.
hand now.
Yeah, it's way out of hand, and it's like that even out here. We're a sleepy little town, and we're gonna call it Southern California. People argue with that because we're on one side of the grapevine, but we're
Yep.
still Kern County is the Southern California thing. So
Yeah.
we're just a little bit south of Bakersfield, where we live at now in Stallion Springs. So it's nice, it's kind of out in the boonies. I got wild animals all the time. They just ate my garden. By matter of fact, the deer broke into my garden and they ate it. They finished it off for me, and I'm like, well, that's good because I was done with it anyway. So it's
Yeah, it's
life.
one of those things. And for the longest time, when I would hear Bakersfield, we would always think like, hey, that's kind of the heart of mini trucking. And I don't know. I know there were a lot of mini trucks there, but that, my friend Chad Lucas, he lived in that area. I got a chance to visit back in like early 2000s. I was out there
Hmm.
for Rezo when Severed had their 10th anniversary, and it was crazy to be in that area just because I was like, man, there's so much history.
Right. I met the first time I was ever in Bakersfield was for a Bonton truck run.
Oh yeah.
That was scary. It was that was at it was probably at the fairgrounds, and I look back now and I think, wow, that was sketchy back then, but that was like in the late 80s. So it was like, it was more vans than there was mini trucks, but there was still a few, but it was cool, but I was like, that's my only experience I had with Bakersfield at all. That's the only time I'd ever been there, or besides driven through it,
Yep.
going up north to Oregon or Washington. So it's pretty crazy to it's like, okay, now I'm moving there. Great. And I'm a FedEx driver. So it was like, ooh, I get
Oh
to
wow.
learn the whole area. Yeah. It was
Yeah,
pretty horrible.
for sure. And that's a good segue because like I'm always curious, like how did you get involved with the scene? Was it I know like you think the 80s and 90s, I look back at all these like little old
Yeah.
videos I can find and stuff, and it seemed like it was like such a cultural thing that was going on. Did you get roped in like around that era?
Well, I mean, all through high school, I was in auto shop and I always had a thing for cars. I was a car person.
Uh-huh.
Anybody I dated, if they didn't like cars, it was not going to happen. So I had friends. We all had stupid little cars. At the time, it was Volkswagens.
Yep.
And we're kind of, running the streets, having fun and meeting up with people. And back then, you had to really plan your night. There was no cell phones.
Yep.
Maybe somebody had a beeper. Great. But you had to know, so and so is meeting here and you got to be there. You miss out, you miss out. And
Oh yeah.
so we started cruising more and more. About my 18th birthday, I went and bought me a brand new Mazda pickup truck because I had to have it. It was the most beautiful truck I'd ever seen in my life. It was Caspian blue and it was gorgeous. And that was my first mini truck. And by the first weekend, it was lowered and cutting stuff on it and doing stuff. And I was like, wow, this is great. And then once you have a mini truck, oh, especially being a girl, you're put into kind of groups. But
Right.
I hung out with a lot of the people in California Cruisers, Paradise Truckers, a lot of the mini truck clubs because they would all hang out in the same places, so we knew where to go hang out with them, whether it was Angelo's or at the Carl's Jr. over in Brea, wherever you had to meet. And so I ended up not getting in with California Cruisers because my truck was more stock and they
Yep.
were very much a show club. So that's where I met Sean Mahaney. And we were just, acquaintances at that point. And then
Sure.
I went into Paradise Truckers because they were more of a, hey, let's party and have fun club. Really didn't care what your ride was. It was cool. It was more just for the fun of it. And that's what I've always loved about the whole truck scene is the people. Some people I don't see for maybe one or two shows a year, but I can talk to them like I've known them my life because we have so many things in common and you know the conversation comes easy because I talk with them online. It's not the same as in person. So when you see them, it's like, hey, this is great. These are my friends.
Oh yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, it just keeps going. And
Cool.
as I had kids, though, when I moved to Texas, I show up in a mini truck with a California, mini truck council sticker on the thing, and they were like, "What the hell is this?" Because I had show stickers up the front,
Right.
and they were confused. It was a different scene out there completely. They were, I say, several years back from they were cruising, Forest Lane, and they were, hanging out, and it was great. It was a lot of people, a lot of friends. Cops were still a problem, and it was wonderful. I had kids, and I sold my truck. I said, nope, I have babies, and
Yeah.
I
Priorities.
gave it up. And I really, I was always was kind of went to shows, went to Texas Heat Wave, went to stuff, but never really had my own vehicle again. My husband did, but I didn't because I was like, nah, I'm busy being a
Yeah,
mom,
you're the
and this
mom,
is important.
exactly. Yeah, and
So,
what's neat is I'm going to share this real quick because I think if oops, let me see if I can pull this up right. So you had given me some intel on this recently. So when you were
Yes.
talking about your blue Mazda, for
Yeah.
those that are watching on YouTube, you're going to see Street Rodder May '89. This
Yeah.
is your truck. Talk to us a little bit about how did this come about?
Well, we were at a California Cruiser show. I want to say it was a Jamboree. I could be wrong,
Uh-huh.
but we'd been up since like 4 o'clock in the morning. My truck was, clean, but pretty much stock lowered truck, cute.
Sure.
And they came through and they said, we need some backdrop vehicles for the street rod. Hey, your truck's the right color. I need a blue one. I need they wanted to, emphasize the car, of course.
Yep.
So we're like, cool. It was across the street at the high school. So we pulled the vehicles out, went over there and, set it all up. I was exhausted. I was filthy. So my best friend there is Terry, who's in the yellow shirt sticking out of the car. You can see the back window has my name on it. But he's in the video shoot with it because I was like, I ain't doing this. And so he's like, okay, I'll do it. But he was working the show for California Cruisers at the time. So that's why two of the people in that picture have those yellow shirts. Those were their staff shirts.
Ah.
Yeah. So they set that all up across the street and then we finished and we went back, over the show and reparked them in. And oh my God, that was the coolest thing ever. I was like, I made a cover of a magazine. I was like, okay, well, Street Rodder. And I was a backdrop vehicle, but I don't really care. It was cool because I was like, hey, this truck meant a lot to me and it served me very well. And the whole time I had it, couldn't tell you whatever happened to it. But by the time I sold it, it had a windowless snug top on it. And, she rode like a dream. So I loved that truck very, very much. First one. And, you just kind of, you never forget your first.
Yeah, and what's neat is when I was thinking about this, because I've seen this issue before, like mini trucking, many people remember 1988, but like 89 was really that first full year. It was the 4 issues, and Street Rodder and then Hot Rod Magazine did that one like mini trucking kind of issue where there's a little segment in there because I think they realized that this stuff was like really gaining steam, and this was always neat to me because it was like the hot rod, but then the younger generation was kind of in there. So it was neat that they kind of bridged the gap a little bit.
Yeah, I thought it was a great idea for a photo shoot, not just because I got to have my truck in it, but we were all like, this is cool. We all were like, this is really cool. We like this.
Oh, yeah.
And the poor guy with Street Rodder, man, he heard from me a lot.
Right? Yeah. And I'm kind of curious. So now, like you think about like so many people in the scene, right? You raise your family, you work hard all these years, and then my understanding was a few years ago, you wanted to kind of get back in to your roots, so to speak. And I often see on your Facebook side toy. So talk to us a little bit about the Toyota.
Right. Well, this truck we bought in 2014. Me and Sean Mahaney bought it. And it was a shop truck. It was just a cool 93 Toyota pickup truck. And we're like, this is great. We bought it wrecked. The front end was smashed in it, but it was cool because he looked at it and he goes, oh, we can fix this. No problem. So we got it dirt cheap. Got it, fixed it up, and then we used it as our shop truck. We hauled things you should not haul in a single cab regular truck in this thing. This truck was on fire. She was great. My daughter drove it at college at UCSB. It was a very dependable truck. It never let us down.
Got it.
After Sean passed away, I had more than 11 vehicles that were half projects because any car guy has projects. It just happens. I had a lot and I had to decide what I wanted to keep and what I wanted to get to somebody else to take care of and make it their project. And the truck, I was like, I really didn't need a pickup truck anymore. Because I was like, I've got vehicles to drive around. And I'm like, I don't know what to do with this thing. I was like, this is a great idea. Well, I'm just going to bag it.
Heck yeah.
That's probably one of the dumbest things to say financially ever.
Right. A gateway drug.
But so I started collecting parts. I sent the truck off and had the engine rebuilt in it. Because I was like, well, I'm not going to do all this work to a truck that's going to explode a week later. Not going to happen. So had the truck all rebuilt, the engine redone, and she was fresh and tight. And then I just started replacing things, the fenders, this. And then my friend Eric Scarlett from Monster Garage was like, he lived near me. And he's like, let me lower it. I'm going to do it old style. We're going to do this So we took it up to his house in Bear Valley, and he chopped her up.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And we got it back, did all the air ride on it, and worked out the kinks probably for the next year. It's nothing
Sure.
is, you don't just put it, well, you can do it, put it together, and it all works great. But we did most of it, in our garage, ourselves. I learned a lot about air ride. They didn't do air ride back in the day. I was a
Right.
static girl. I was like, this is all new to me. Teach me, let me learn. And
Sure.
thank God, for my husband, Sean Patrick, he knows stuff. And
Yeah.
if he doesn't, he learns stuff. So we took care of this truck, and we got her through all the things. Then I redid the interior on it. I've probably done the stereo system and interior stuff, changed it up probably 3 to 4 different times to get it to where now I'm drop dead in love with it, and I still got more stuff to do. But we got it all, set up and done, and looking okay besides paint. And then I finally threw it in paint, and the fabrication was being finished on the bed. And a couple years ago, we got her painted and then that back together, and then making this change and that change. Now finally, that's me at Grand National Truck Show. And finally, this whole image of my truck was exactly in my head how I wanted to see it from start to finish. And trust me, Sean Patrick would say, oh my gosh, you should do this, or oh gosh, you should do this, or you should paint it this color, you should do these wild graphics. And I said, nope, nope, nope. I got this idea. And I wanted to do just crazy, chaotic pinstripe graphics that, met what I wanted to do on it. And so we have a friend, there's a pinstriper who does excellent work here, Steven Sturm, and he listened to what I had to say. And, he painted stupid, crazy graphics on my tailgate when it was just a primer tailgate.
Right.
And I was like, this is great. This is exactly what I like. And so it went down like that for a while till I was ready to go to paint. Once it got painted, he did the next set of graphics, pinstriping on it. And he said, I've got you. I know exactly what I'm going to do. Because I was wanting to go a little different direction than him. And he talked to me and he said, no. He goes, this is what we're going to do. And I said, I trust you on this one, and do it. And he exactly put my heart into what we wanted to do with the wings on the hood, and the Sacred Heart, and, her little tramp stamp on the tailgate. Yep. It all, is everything that I exactly wanted it to be. Yeah. So she's coming quite along.
Yeah. And it had to have been a good feeling, because all these years, the Grand National Roadster Show, so many folks have come around to say, wow, the truck scene is such a big thing. And they do this. And I know Juan's played a role, I think, in securing a lot of these spots and things like that, and these trucks. Right. But for you to have the truck there just a month, this was last month, I think, right? At this year.
Yep, that was last month. And this is only the second Grand National Truck Show where it was just pretty much trucks, vans only.
Yes.
And, oh, wow. Yeah, I felt intimidated by it, in all honesty. I was like, there's a lot of really, really nice vehicles. But every time you look at really nice high-end builds, you learn something, you see something, you see something that excites you and makes you think, hey, I want to change this up or do this or do that. And I get ideas every single time. But, this truck is completely out of my head and what I wanted to build. And then people go, wow, that teal. Yeah, it's obnoxious. I love that part. It's, with the gray, I had so many people, oh my gosh, you're painting it gray. And I'm like, no, just you wait. It's got a teal pearl in it. It's really fantastic, especially in the sunlight, because it's a lot of different colors. But I'm very proud of her, and this has been a hard labor of love for the last 5 years. I've been building this nonstop. Always something is changing. And that's, what I like to see in a lot, just to seeing, just keep doing things, keep changing things up, and, making things your own, because my truck's a little different than everything else out there. And I like that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And, I know Sean Patrick had posted in September, it was hard to believe it was the same truck. And to your point, with seeing, and I'll share some of this after the episode comes out, with it being kind of smashed in and things like that, it really
Mhm.
is a testament to the hard work of, Sean helping to rebuild it, and then everything you, Sean, now Sean Patrick and you have done, and your vision
Yeah,
coming through. It's got to be a good feeling to kind of go, wow, look,
it
we
is.
did it. And I didn't, I heard the noise, on the outside a little bit, but you kind of stuck to your gun, so to speak.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And trust me, Sean will say, "Oh, well, I had a different idea." He goes, "But I like your idea." So I like that. And I mean, he stands behind it 100%. He's like, she came out beautiful, and it's not bad at all. I get a lot of compliments on it, and I'm kind of, I was like, well, I'm kind of did it for myself, not really for everybody else, but it's really nice to hear that everyone else likes it too. And, there's always things that, you wonder, well, yeah, I've seen a lot of people do stuff that they like, and it's like, wow, that's special. And, hey, you either hit it or you don't. So
Yeah.
it's a good feeling to see it come together.
Yeah. Well stated. And, what one thing I wanted to point out too, I see your relaxed atmosphere, shirt, and it's got to be a good feeling too to kind of get out there. And I saw all the stickers on the front windshield, kind of even that throwback to, all those years ago when you went out to Texas. And it's got to be a good feeling to go out there, represent the RA, this club that's been around 30 plus years now. And so many folks, whether it's a guy or a lady like yourself, they love the camaraderie of going to the show, setting up the chairs,
Mhm.
hanging out, right? That's got to be a good feeling too.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. The Southern California RA chapter, I've known a lot of those people for a very long time, and they eh, they talked to me about it, and I was like, no, 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 I don't want to be a part of a club anymore. And then Juan Trevino just never really gave up,
Yeah.
and so I finally said, hey, let me come hang out with you guys, and he was like, absolutely, like we need you in here, and I was like, oh, okay, let's try this, and I couldn't be disappointed at all. The level of people are just amazing. They're the nicest people you'd ever want to meet. They're handy. They're hardworking, and they're respected. And that's a lot in these days, because having that respect when you go to a show like Grand National Truck Show, they respect your club that much. It's a good feeling, because it's nothing like the old days. Well, it's a lot like the old days, actually, when you had that respect coming in,
Sure,
but
sure. I get
not
where
as
you're
a
going.
bad thing. It's as a oh, if you're part of that group, then you must be okay.
Right.
Well, yeah, it's a good thing.
Yep. I wanted to transition briefly though, and just mention this. I know about 7.5, a little over 7 years ago, the world lost Sean Mahaney, your late husband, and on September 23rd, you had posted you miss him every day. Talk to us about just briefly the impact that was made from the automotive scene, because I want to talk a little bit about Sean Co. I see that in the background there, but it's got to be kind of a neat feeling to know, although he may not be here with us here on Earth, he made such a big impact, and I know that you continue to still see that influence.
Oh, absolutely. We certainly weren't ready to lose him. It
Yeah.
was, a freak accident on the 5 freeway on his motorcycle, and he did die instantly, which was really a blessing in my heart. But it was uh, a shock that you're never ready for.
Yeah.
And so many people that we had helped and done things for, rallied around us and really helped comfort me through that time. I've, you know, you could see the other side of my room, you see a bunch of wheelchairs and things. We still rebuild wheelchairs. We still help people. I still do stuff at cost for people, because
Yep.
I'm not trying to make money off of them.
Sure.
We all know if it says wheelchair anywhere in the title of it, it means it's going to cost 12 times what it should.
Yeah.
And, so many great companies and stuff out there because of Sean Mahaney. And we started, going through and building stuff as inexpensively as we could, or helping people do stupid things that they probably shouldn't be doing in a wheelchair, whether it's at the skate parks or whatever. We really kind of head more towards um, the sports end of it. And, you want to be able to jump off curbs and not hurt your butt. Hey, we got you. that was our kind of legacy thing. And we tried to keep it going, to keep building chairs from scratch. The
Sure.
fabricator that had jumped in to help, it became non-workable.
Yeah.
We had a lot of repairs from their work that was really, really disappointing.
Yeah.
So I couldn't keep it going and make it be as viable. And
Exactly.
so, yeah, we still rebuild, we still help with stuff, lots of stuff. And whether somebody needs to order a whole chair, I'll help them. I'm a seating master. I always told, and Sean Mahaney would say, I taught him everything he knows about wheelchairs. He knew all the stuff about fabrication,
Right.
but he needed to know why. And
Yep.
that's what I taught him, because I've been doing it since my daughter was born 23 years ago. And she's a full-time wheelchair user. And, we've always known, wheelchairs are dumb, but they're, they're a necessity when, you do need them. So we tried to make them as cool and fun as possible and not be, oh, look at that poor handicapped child. No, is more like, she gets more kids staring at her chair than she does staring at her in her chair. They just think she's got a cool car that's all hers.
Oh yeah. Yeah,
Oh,
and I
yeah.
think when the wheelchair company and what you guys were kind of at the forefront of that and helping a lot of folks,
Yeah.
when I see on Instagram Nitro Circus and to your point a moment ago, all of the extreme sports that have come out of it, and we saw some of the stuff that you and Sean had done with the guys doing the tricks in the pools and stuff, right? Like it was
Yeah.
always mind blowing to me because I thought to myself, wow, like there's this whole category that we didn't
Oh,
even realize
absolutely.
could be explored. And sometimes I see the stuff on Instagram doing the backflips and I'm like, holy crap. But I knew how much it meant to not only Sean, but yourself to be able to
Yeah.
help as many folks as you could back in, in that era.
Oh, yeah. I mean, he quit his full-time, fabrication deal with the hydraulic company in Bakersfield when he went to do the wheelchair stuff full time. And it was a struggle, and we made it work because, it was a lot more rewarding in life than to not do it.
Oh yeah.
It was, I think it was kind of his calling, and he really got a lot of joy out of it. And plus, texting and talking to people all over the world, all about the mini truck stuff, the car stuff. His phone was going off non-frickin' stop all the time. There'd be times when he'd turn it off because he'd be like, okay, I'll get to them tomorrow now. Because, he always had those people, everybody wanted to ask that one question.
Yep.
And, it turned it turned into a lot of work all the time.
Oh
So,
yeah. Well, and here's a fun one that kind of ties into the same thing. I forgot about this until we were just talking. He had the opportunity to do, and when he told me about this, that 2 Chainz had reached out and he had an injury,
yeah.
and it was like he did this kind of trap, which ties into the whole, the hip hop stuff and the set. But if I remember correctly, you guys thrashed on this, which was insane to have wire wheels, and I think he maybe even delivered it to him.
Yeah, we did. We got the call late on a Thursday night and delivered it to him Wednesday in Arizona.
Yeah, I remember.
We built it over that weekend, and it had to be done fast. And we, yeah, we powder coated those wheels. You couldn't get those spokes wheels in gold, so we're like, okay, we're gonna powder coat them gold. We couldn't, and I'm down at the
Right.
lowrider shop on Friday picking up stuff for this thing and getting the okay, and he's getting all the measurements. And 2 Chainz had basically injured his foot or knee. He injured his knee in his kid's jump house. It was hilarious.
Yeah.
But I was like, he was about to start his tour, and he's like, I can't not start the tour, so I'm going to have some nurse Ratchet kind of thing pushing me around. We'll make this work. And so we had to make it so his leg could be up because, he just had surgery, and we made it happen, and they were beyond shocked. And, he's the nicest guy you'd ever want to meet too.
I heard he was definitely nice.
I was kind of shocked because I was like, I didn't even know who 2 Chainz was. In all honesty,
Right.
And so Sean plays me some music, and I'm like, okay, I still don't know who 2 Chainz is, but that's cool. And so by the time we got there and met him and his whole entourage and everything, I was just like, wow, I am blown away by this guy. He is literally the nicest guy I've ever met in my life. He had a lot of money, and he was not afraid to spend it. I mean, he had some really high-end umbrella that he was trying to figure out how to attach to the chair. We're like, no.
Yeah. You're like, we didn't put that feature on there. We didn't have
Yeah,
that.
we did. But it was funny. But we were just like, wow. So yeah.
Yeah, I heard
Little
he's a
things like that.
smart business guy, and he's
Oh
kind of
yeah.
dabbling in all kinds of stuff. And it's funny, I always have the dad jokes of like, you're getting old when. So I tell my wife all the time, like, she'll be singing a song on the radio, and I'm like, I'm listening to like 1994 Warren G. I was like, who is this? And my whole gag is, you're getting old when you don't recognize. And I literally like remember like my dad going, what the heck is the Wu-Tang Clan, right? And it's like now I'm like, who is this on the radio?
Yeah, it's coming around on us now. We understand what our parents did, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
But
too
no,
loud.
that was a good point about talking about 2 Chainz and the wheelchair and stuff, because I just thought it was kind of neat that opportunity had arisen, and it kind of came out of that whole other thing. And the old saying in Hollywood is the show must go on. So like to your point, although he was injured, he's like, hey, money is money. He's like, I can still rap.
Yeah, then this is the second chair we built for some rappers, believe it or not.
Wow.
We'd also, I can't say their name, Ray Stramerd.
Oh yeah.
He jumped off stage and injured himself, and so we had to build something flashy for him as well. And yeah, that was many years prior. So that's how the 2 Chainz manager got our number. Because he's like, they did it for them, they could do it for us. And we're like, absolutely.
Yeah.
We'll take care of it. But yeah, it was, a solid week of we got to get this done, put everything else on the side. And
oh yeah.
Yeah. It was tricky.
Now, speaking of the show must go on, it's no secret that in the truck scene that Gas Monkey had acquired Crew Cut, and they had it in their arsenal, right? And a lot of people, we knew the buzz. Talk to us about my understanding when they filmed the release of the I'm trying to think of the word, the re-debut of it, right?
Yeah.
My understanding was they had contacted you, and
I was
remember
there.
back on Facebook, you were able to fly out there.
Yeah. Yeah, they flew me out there, and I didn't get to see it until it was done. But yeah, the fun thing with that is that, before Sean had passed, he was talking to them nonstop because they kept asking him, why did you do this? Why did you do this? Why did you do that? Why, and he's like, look, back then, this is the best that we could do. Right. And, there was a few things that were a little sketchy, you know, and Gas Monkey just blew it out of the water, and they really went and changed things to more modern,
components,
ways to do stuff, and it made it just 20 times better. And Sean Mahaney was totally involved in that and talking to them and telling them, okay, well, we did this because of this, but now I would have done it differently. And so he was a huge part of, the things they were doing to that car before they were doing it. But it wasn't until after he passed that the guys in the shop said, dude, we got to do this truck, and we got to do it now. And they really started the project and redid it. And I know David Schulman, who owns that car now, that truck now, and he, he's the nicest guy. And in all honesty, he's the best owner for that truck. He knew it back in the day, and he always dreamed that he would have that truck, and he made it happen. And, now that truck gets out and it's shown again, and people can really see, the work of it. That paint is the original paint.
I know.
They had to do some touch-up stuff, but that is the original paint. And to me, that's pretty badass.
Yeah,
From
it is.
When it was West Side, before it became Crew Cut, there was a battery hold-down bar.
Yes.
That I have on my mantle.
I remember you telling me about that. And
yeah, we found it up with our scrap metal after Sean had passed. I was cleaning out stuff, and we pulled this one bar down and flipped it over, and I was like, wait a minute. That's from something. And so we started researching, and we figured out it was the battery tie-down bar for West Side. And even, the original painter that painted it, we confirmed it with him.
Yep.
Yeah, Doug Starbuck. And, oh, no. It wasn't Doug Starbuck. It was, my brain just went flash.
Okay.
But it was one of the first things he'd ever painted like that for that. And it was like, what? So yeah, we still have it. And a lot of people that own MIC vehicles have been trying to get it from us, and it's not going anywhere.
It's not going anywhere.
It'll stay here. It's, we cleaned it up. But the funny thing is we moved 3 different locations. I moved with Sean Mahaney, and I never saw that piece before. So
Yeah.
it was always in the garage junk that all that stuff you move. We probably had a full truckload of stuff from each house. It was just garage stuff because,
Yeah.
it's
Yep.
trucks. And he'd always, just set up his garage and put it all away. And I'd never really noticed that piece. He never talked to me about it or nothing until he found it and we researched it and figured it out. And it
Yeah.
was like,
It's a
wow.
keeper. Yeah.
Yeah, it's stuff like that. I found lots and lots of stuff. We have lots of pictures. I need to scan in a lot of these old pictures. I've got buckets and buckets of pictures from, let's say, the old days. I hate saying that. The experience days. Now, what did we come up with?
Right. Yeah. We're
When
well,
it happened a long time ago.
well experienced, exactly. And what's
Right?
neat is we've been able to tell the story. Luckily, kind of became friends with Rob a little bit, Rob Maggi, and
Yeah.
folks forget that he was the original owner of West Side, and then this truck, and Sean, of course, had his hands in it. And it's been neat. We even had Joey and Heather on. That Heather had won it, and we did it like about 20 years to the day that she won it. So they both kind of came
Yeah.
on. So it's been kind of neat. But to your point, Donna, what's awesome is Shulman has that famous photo from that year that he went out to California and he sat at him, and he had that vision. And it was kind of crazy because, with Gas Monkey having acquired it, and then his team and those guys, the monkeys at the time, kind of saying, hey, let's do it. It was really neat. This year, although I had seen it a ton now, my buddy from the truck scene was in town from Germany. He's been coming to the shows in the U.S., and he was in Maggie Valley. And I text Shulman, or I waved him down, I think, and I said, hey, can you, let us roll with you? And he took us up and down the strip, and it was a neat feeling because it's like 25 plus years later, the truck is still relevant. It's still out there in Sean's hands, and we're in this thing.
Yeah. I mean, I was there, put my hands on it, and I was blown away that they did that truck more than beautiful justice. I mean, by the way they rebuilt it and the way they took care to preserve, the flames and the paint and the front end and the wheels. They changed the wheels and stuff, but they really kept the style right. The interior, they upgraded that. Even the hydraulics was a completely new, much better setup, but they didn't make it just air. They still kept her on hydras and stuff, and that's just a lot of respect right there.
Oh yeah, and that Van Diemen paint job and things like that.
Van Diemen was the one that painted them. And I was just talking to him at the Grand National Truck Show too, and we were kind of laughing. And I ran into him and Starbuck at the truck show, and I got to introduce my husband to him, and he was like, oh my gosh, I talk to these guys all the time, but I've never met them in person. And I'm just like, it was it's kind of like been acquaintance of since way back in the olden times.
Now, speaking of relics, this was one that I
that's
didn't
the original
seeing.
Switchbox.
So when I was kind of getting ready for this, I saw this and I said, oh, we got to bring this up. But the monkey signed it, right?
Yep, they all presented that to me and gave that to me. That's the original Switchbox from Crew Cut. That now it's not on switches like that. So they preserved all that and all signed it, and I've got it in my little memories case. So it's nice.
Oh yeah, and here was something cool. I don't know if you knew this, but having become friends with. I've been friends with Joey Romuto, but his wife Heather was the one that had won it when Rob gave it away, and he knew a lot of history with it because they had it for several years. And what was neat was, if I remember correctly, Joey went out to Dallas one year and he was out there, and they had their a license plate from it, and he gave it back to Richard, which was super cool because he said like Rob had given them a lot of that stuff. And there's a photo that he has in Gas Monkey where he's got, I think it was the MIC crew, or it was one of the original license plates, and I always thought that was kind of neat.
Mm-hmm.
So
I hadn't seen that one though.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
If you find it.
Now, I wanted to ask you this. Last year, I was able to meet up with you and kind of chat face to face with you and Sean at the Freaks of Nature SEMA kickoff party, which is also the Mini Truck Hall of Fame induction ceremony. What do you love most about kind of the car and truck scene now? You've alluded to it a little bit earlier, but being that you were in it at such an early age, and now you kind of go, "Wow, I'm back in it." What do you love most about it, Donna?
Well, I mean, this all comes from the fact that uh, with after me and Sean Mahaney got married, and we'd spend time doing stuff, and we'd be like, oh, there's these car shows, let's go to this, and he would go, I don't want to go, I'm not building anything right now. He tried to stay away from the scene somewhat.
Sure.
And if you wanted to go, he didn't let himself go because he thought, well, I don't have nothing right now that I'm building, so I'm not going to say anything. And I think it was a big regret for him. And he died not, he had started many projects. Trust me, I could show you lots of projects. But he didn't just go and hang out with the people. And he didn't realize how many people really, really, really looked up to him. And I don't want to have any regrets in missing out on this stuff.
Sure.
So you knew you were going to do this to me. And so I go, and my favorite thing is hanging out with the people. Sometimes you see some really cool rides or some really inventive things or some really, just off the wall stuff or old stuff that's like, oh my God, I remember when this was, but it's the people, and I don't care what club they're with or how long it's been since I've seen them. I hang out with everybody, and I have a strong group of women involved with this, the Female Mini Truck Association. And I had at the last show at the Avi, Forbidden Fantasy.
Yep.
And that was a great show. And I had this one younger girl run up to me, and I was like, oh my God, I don't know who this girl is. I couldn't remember her name.
Right.
And she goes, you are my favorite person. And I thought, oh my gosh. And it was Chrissy. And I said, okay. And she introduces herself, and she gave me a big hug. And I was just like, how does anybody know who I am? And she's like, no, I follow your truck and everything. And I was like, you know what? That made me feel like 1,000% of what I do this for. And, my in-laws, my mom will always say, you guys do too much. You go to too many shows. I'm like, what else are we supposed to be doing? We're retired. I'm like, this is what we do now. And this is what we have fun at. And my daughter enjoys it. And as a family, we get out, and it's fun. And I'm not going to regret, ever going to the car and truck shows or even not having any savings because it's in 2 paint jobs in the garage.
Sure. Right.
Because I'm like, you ain't taking the stuff with you. Make your fun, do your thing, and I say often is this, every thing that has led to where I am right now is because of horrible things that happened and because of great things that have happened. And I don't regret any of it. I wouldn't be where I am right now, and with my awesome husband Sean Patrick, if it wouldn't have been for the death of Sean Mahaney. And I miss him dearly. I really do. But I'm right where I'm supposed to be right now.
Yeah, and people, that may not understand it. I remember watching a thing. There's a guy on ESPN, I think Adam Schefter, if I remember correctly, and his wife. If I think I got this right, his wife she became a widow after 9/11, and they did a segment one time on it, and it was like it was very heart-wrenching because he was like, look, out of this tragedy, he's like, I met the most important person in my life now, and of course nobody wishes upon that stuff, but like to your point, it's like a famous rapper said, everything I'm not made me everything I am. And it's kind of like, to your point, that we become who we are because of the good and the bad, right? It's all mixed together, like a nice milkshake. Like that.
I definitely wouldn't, if everything happens in an amazing way, you never learn.
Yeah.
I learned a lot. And, I try to, honor his memory all that I can, but I think he'd really love my truck now.
Oh yeah.
I'm pretty damn positive. I look at all the things that he's built over his career, and I know which ones that they gave him free reign on, and they look a little different than the, at West Coast and stuff. They look a lot different than the stuff that they, made. It's got to be like this. And
sure.
He had fun with that stuff, and that was, his life. And he was really happy to stop doing it for celebrities and start doing it for himself.
Yeah.
And he was going to get there. We had already started all the parts and pieces to start building, Ramblux again. And because
Yes.
we couldn't find Ramblux. Well, unfortunately, last year we found Ramblux 1 month too late, and it went to the crusher from what we
Yeah.
were told.
Yeah.
And so I actually have the truck, the roof, everything
Oh,
here to build the 2.0 version because we'd already started it.
right.
And it's been sitting here, so that's hence why my truck is side toy. That's the main toy.
Gotcha. Exactly. Yeah. And I
Yeah,
remember
that's
Sean mentioning some things about that. So
yeah.
it's very cool. And, it will be interested to see what you guys decide with that. I only have a few more questions, but I wanted you mentioned this a moment ago with Chrissy. How important do you think it is for the women that are involved in the scene, to continue to get the recognition? Because I have long said the ladies can run circles around the guys, and my personal belief is that the ladies don't get enough recognition. That's why one reason why I appreciate you sitting down with us.
Absolutely. I mean, people have good and bad things to say about everybody. I don't care if it's
Yeah,
a girl or a boy in all reality, but some of the women, I've seen them, they will put together a vehicle that just looks more put together a lot of times, where the guys tend to do flashier builds.
sure,
And I'm not talking even that, but like I know Georgia's working on her build right now, and go girl, that thing is phenomenal. And with the help of her husband and stuff, I mean, they are putting together something that is going to be
showstopper.
mind blowing, mind blowing. And I on our private page, I see a lot of these women's builds and stuff, and they have their own ideas of what they want to do. And luckily, sometimes they have partners that help them achieve
Sure,
that when it's something that's outside of their knowledge base. Not every woman wants to weld. Not every woman wants to do electrical work. I can tell you exactly how I want it done, but sometimes I ain't going to be the one doing it.
sure.
But that's why I hire out stuff that I know is not in my wheelhouse, but I know what I want it to look like when it's done. And, sometimes our vision is a hell of a lot better than the boys. And
Oh yeah,
sometimes it's just, it's all in all greatness. I see so many women's rides, and I have, a few ladies from I've known since way back, and they're still involved and still doing this, but we're a really small group of women in my age group that were out trying to avoid the cops on the 405, because you're going to get pulled over. You just know.
right,
Most of the time with our as women, we didn't get as many tickets as the guys got. I don't know if we had better attitudes or bigger boobs. We don't
right.
know.
I
Yeah,
like that.
but I got pulled over plenty in my day, so I get it. And these women won't stop.
Yep.
They, we all have people that we know that are they're killing it.
Oh yeah.
And I can't say enough about it, because it's like we've all got our time, but I always say my truck's a girl's truck. You can totally tell it's not a boy truck. It's a total girl's truck. And from the completely obnoxious teal interior to the teal bed and stuff, it's flashy, but
Yep.
she's pretty.
Yeah, you definitely have your thumbprint on it. And shout out to
Yeah.
like the kinfolk like Karen Moore. Years ago I went up to
Oh,
Oregon, and I always knew that laugh from like the phone calls and stuff, but like meeting her in person and Karen saying, "Hey, I'm going to give you a spot to sleep, and I got you." It was like there's so
oh
many
yeah.
good people, and like hearing her story back in the day from the late '80s, early '90s, much like yourself, she was in a more rural area, and she said, "Hey, it was amazing to find this magazine, and people are into the same stuff I'm into."
Right.
But like
Yeah.
you said, there's so many good ladies out there, and the day should be gone that when you're cruising your truck and somebody comes by leaning out the side of the window and they say, "Oh, is that your man's truck?" That should be
Never,
long gone.
never had it said, never. And,
Excellent.
anybody walks up, they all, Sean turns to go, "Oh, that's her truck." Even when it's on the trailer, we're at every time we're at the gas station, "Oh, I had a truck just like that." No, you didn't.
Right.
And-
Right.
but
Right.
it is what it is. It's funny, but Sean's always like, "No, that's his." And we're building two. I mean, with Sean's Honda and mine in the garage, it's a fancy garage right now. And, I like that we have, both builds up to where we really want it to be. And coming up to the show this October, and gosh, next Thursday. will be up there. In Laughlin, it's the first time we're showing both of our vehicles together again in like 4 years.
That's so cool.
Yes.
And that's a
One's
good,
been here, one's been there. It's that nightmare.
yeah, that's a good segue because I was going to say your significant other, ironically named Sean Patrick, as you mentioned earlier.
Yeah,
He seems like a great guy. I've got a chance to meet him and I stay in contact with him. Um, but it's got to be good having another car guy in the house, and you just got to
absolutely.
reinforce that.
Yeah, I don't deal well with people that aren't car people. I guess it's kind of funny because again, since high school, I was that dumb girl in auto shop, and the campus cop was giving me the keys to her, IROC, and saying, "Here, go change the oil," and that was my life growing up, and that's not the normal life for
Yeah.
anybody. Most girls are not doing that, and yeah, I was trusted a lot, and I was the first female they ever hired at a Union 76 gas station, doing full serve gas on near Huntington Harbor. Trust me, those old ladies, they're like, like, "Do you know how to do this, honey?" And it's like, yeah, yeah, I do.
Yeah.
I don't know why they gave me the name tag if I didn't, but yeah,
Right.
I got a lot of opportunities in my life, because I pursued them. I didn't say no, but I've learned all through growing up to handle the stuff. And my mom looks at me still and goes, I don't know where you got this from. I was like, me neither.
Yeah.
But, it's my life, and it's, part of what I'm most proud of, that, I can handle myself in a car situation, and, and do, and some stuff I don't want to do. That's where Sean comes in. It's great. So, but
Oh, yeah.
I can do it. I'm
Oh,
just
yeah.
old now. So.
That's awesome. And I want to give a shout out to all the, you mentioned earlier, the Female Mini Trucker Association. There's a lot of awesome
Yes.
females. I think back 20 years ago when, rest in peace, Jen Lacey, she built Chicks Ride. And, there were some chicks issues, ladies, I should say, issues over the course of time in mini trucking. So that was always cool. But I just have one last question before I see if there's anything else that we maybe missed. But the last thing I have is, you're friends with Doug Wilson, right? What an
Yes.
awesome guy that is, man. I'm so glad I met him.
Yeah, he's a good guy. He's one of my closest friends. I would say me and his wife were pretty close. She was a no BS kind of lady, and we would talk all the time. And I knew, if anything needed to be said, it always got said. And she liked that about me. I liked that about her, and we were always, every show we'd hang out all the time. And boy, when she passed, it was seriously missed, and she still is.
Yeah, and Doug told me a little bit about that, and we're going to try to get him on, and low stakes. If you think about that Toyota and how much she
Oh
kind
yeah.
of had
Oh my
involved, and
gosh.
he gave me one of the
Absolutely
little,
beautiful.
in my little display case, I got one of the poker chip things, and I think of him when I see that, and he
I
talks
keep mine
about
in my wallet.
right, yeah. Oh, there you
I
go.
do. I
That's
keep mine in my wallet. I keep it with me all the time.
that's
Yeah,
neat, and
it's that important.
yeah, and he talks about the old Southern Mini Trucking Council stuff and Bontons and all of that. And he
Yeah.
actually even told me too, I think he's got one set of wheels, I don't know at what period, but from Crew Cut. And I was like, come on, man, let those go. And he's like, nah, and I could see he's serious. But he's such a great guy, and he's got his son, that, rolls with him, his family does, and they're good
Yeah.
people. So, I wanted to give Doug a big shout out, because I don't know if I'll ever be able to get him on the podcast, but we're still trying.
I'll poke him a little bit and see what we can do. I know he's been a little under the weather this past couple
Yeah.
weeks, and
Yeah.
he's recovering at home right now, and his son and daughter-in-law are there, and his grandbaby. So I'm sure
Yeah.
they're keeping him
Yeah,
highly entertained.
Well, I'll tell you this, going into the holiday season, right? It's important for a lot of us. It cools down, hopefully, fingers crossed, a little bit. And hopefully I'll get a chance to see you guys. I got to finalize my plans to come out if you guys do make it to the ceremony again.
We're hoping to.
Yeah. Is there anything else you wanted to share that I maybe forgot, Donna? I tried to make it easy.
Gosh, I couldn't even imagine that you didn't just poke my entire life. So yeah, it's great.
Well,
Yeah.
we want to give a huge shout out to Sean Patrick and you guys, and we love seeing you kind of live your
Thank you.
dreams out there. Congrats on the Honda, of course, as you mentioned. And, again, as we kind of move into the holiday season, I'll remind everyone, spend the time with your family, have fun.
Absolutely.
If it's hitting the show, get out there and to Donna's point earlier, live your dreams, because, we never know how much time we got.
Yep.
So let's keep it real.
Yep. Tell everyone you love them. Make it awkward. It's good.
Yep.
It's okay.
I agree.
Yeah.
Well, Donna Mahaney-Patrick, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. I
And
appreciate you having me on, honey.
stay on the rise.
Bye.